Imagine trusting someone. Imagine opening your door to people you call friends. People who smile at your face, who know your name, who know where you live. Now imagine that those very people become the architects of your worst nightmare. Sam Nordquist was 24 years old. He had his whole life ahead of him. And in what should have been the ordinary, unremarkable days of early adulthood, he was subjected to some of the most prolonged, calculated, and sadistic torture this country has ever seen. This isn't fiction. This isn't a horror movie. This happened. And the details are going to disturb you. Welcome back to Dark Files, the channel that pulls back the curtain on the cases the world doesn't want to look at directly. I'm here every week, digging into the darkest, most disturbing true crime cases with one goal: the truth. Because these victims deserve to have their stories told, and told right. If you are new here, hit that subscribe button right now. Every week we go deep into real cases that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about the people around you. Subscribe. You do not want to miss what's coming. Now, let us talk about Sam Nordquist, because this case is unlike anything I have ever covered on this channel. Before we go any further, I want you to ask yourself, how well do you really know the people in your life? To understand the horror of what happened to Sam Nordquist, we first have to understand who he was. Sam was a 24-year-old young man from Minnesota. By most accounts, he was a regular guy, someone navigating the complicated social world of his mid-20s. Like so many people his age, Sam had a circle of acquaintances and people he considered friends. He trusted people. He let people in. And that trust, that very basic human act of trusting the people around you, would ultimately cost him everything. What investigators would eventually uncover is that Sam had become connected to a group of individuals whose intentions toward him were anything but friendly. But here's what makes this case so uniquely terrifying. The abuse didn't happen all at once. It wasn't a single, explosive moment of violence. It was prolonged. It was systematic. It was months of calculated cruelty carried out by people Sam actually knew. Here's what I keep coming back to. How do you miss the signs? How does someone endure this kind of prolonged suffering without the people around them noticing? We'll explore exactly that as we go deeper. Stay with me, because the story of how this unfolded is as complex as it is deeply disturbing. Investigators and court documents would later reveal the kind of details that are genuinely difficult to process. Sam Nordquist was not killed in a single act of violence. What happened to him was far worse. Over an extended period of time, we were talking months, Sam was subjected to repeated physical abuse and torture at the hands of multiple perpetrators. People who operated under the belief that they could do what they wanted to him with absolute impunity. This is something criminologists note in cases like this. Prolonged abuse of this nature requires a specific psychological dynamic. The perpetrators have to deeply believe, that their victim either cannot or will not seek help. And somehow they had established that dynamic with Sam. The abuse escalated over time. That's one of the most chilling patterns in cases like this. What starts as control, as dominance, as cruelty, it feeds on itself. It grows. The perpetrators become emboldened. Each act of violence that goes unpunished makes the next one worse. Forensic psychologists describe a phenomenon where perpetrators lose their inhibitions, progressively, each escalation normalizing the next. The victim is dehumanized in the perpetrator's mind, step by step. And all the while, Sam was enduring this, alone, in the company of people who should have been people he trusted. Think about that for a moment. The people who tortured Sam weren't strangers. They weren't monsters from the shadows. They were people he knew. Does that make this more terrifying to you? Drop a comment below. I want to know your thoughts. The specifics documented by law enforcement in this case are severe. The injuries Sam sustained over this period were consistent with extended, deliberate physical abuse, the kind that doesn't happen in a single incident. This was repeated. This was intentional. This was torture. One of the most critical questions in any case like this is, why? Why did this happen? And who exactly was responsible? What investigators uncovered in the Sam Nordquist case revealed a disturbing social dynamic, one built on control, manipulation, and the exploitation of someone who is in a vulnerable position. Multiple individuals were ultimately tied to Sam's abuse and death. This wasn't a single bad actor. This was a group. And within that group, there existed a culture, a tolerance, even an encouragement of violence against Sam. Criminologists and prosecutors who handle cases involving group-perpetrated violence often point to what they call diffusion of responsibility, the psychological effect where, when multiple people are involved in a crime, each individual feels less personally responsible. The group normalizes the behavior. They reinforce each other. In Sam's case, this is believed to have played a significant role. The very presence of multiple perpetrators made the abuse more likely to continue and less likely for any single person to stop it. Here is a question that should disturb all of us. If you were in a group situation and saw someone being mistreated, would you speak up? Studies show that most people, under the pressure of a group, stay silent. Why do you think that is? Let me know in the comments. The betrayal Sam experienced wasn't just physical. It was the betrayal of social trust, of the basic assumption we all make that the people in our lives mean us no harm. Sam's case exposes how catastrophically wrong that assumption can be. When Sam Nordquist's death was discovered, it sent shockwaves through the community. Law enforcement was called in, and what they found was not the scene of a sudden single act of violence. The evidence told a much more disturbing story. A story that pointed to prolonged abuse, multiple perpetrators, and a cover-up. Investigators began building their case piece by piece. In cases involving prolonged torture and group perpetration, investigators face an especially complex challenge: establishing the timeline, corroborating evidence across multiple suspects, and piecing together exactly what happened over weeks or months, not just at a single moment in time. Forensic evidence was critical. Medical examiners were able to identify injuries that were consistent with repeated trauma sustained over an extended period, not injuries from a single event. This evidence was foundational to establishing the true nature of what Sam had endured. And then came the testimony. As investigators began questioning people connected to Sam and to the perpetrators, a clearer and more horrifying picture began to emerge. There were people who knew, people who were present, people who participated. Law enforcement described this case as one of the most disturbing they had investigated, not because of a single act of violence, but because of the sustained, deliberate nature of the abuse Sam suffered over time. Multiple arrests were made, and as the judicial process began, the full scope of what Sam had endured started becoming public knowledge, shocking the community and horrifying everyone who heard it. Somewhere along the way, people knew this was happening and did nothing. At what point does silence become complicity? This is one of the most important questions this case raises, and I'd love to hear your answer in the comments below. The pursuit of justice, pursuing justice in a case like Sam's is never simple. When multiple perpetrators are involved, prosecutors must determine not just who was present, but who did what, to what degree, and how responsibility should be apportioned under the law. This is complicated. It requires evidence. It requires testimony. And in cases where some perpetrators choose to cooperate in exchange for consideration, it requires navigating the difficult moral terrain of deal-making in the name of justice. Cases involving prolonged torture and group violence often carry significant charges, including felony murder statutes in states where a death results from the commission of certain felonies, even if one participant did not directly cause the death. For Sam's family, for the community that knew him, none of these legal proceedings could undo the horror of what had happened. But justice, imperfect as it is, represents something. It represents the acknowledgement that what was done to Sam was wrong, that his life had value, that what happened to him mattered. Do you think our justice system adequately handles cases of prolonged torture and group-perpetrated violence? Or do you think more needs to change? I genuinely want your perspective. Leave it in the comments. The Sam Nordquist case became a stark reminder that evil doesn't always wear a face we don't recognize. Sometimes it wears the face of someone we thought we knew. What this case teaches is Yusa. Every case we cover on Dark Files carries a lesson, something we can take into our own lives and communities. The Sam Nordquist case teaches us several things that are deeply uncomfortable but profoundly important. First, isolation is a weapon. Those who prey on vulnerable individuals often begin by isolating them, cutting them off from the support systems that might intervene. If someone in your life seems to be disappearing from their network, that's a warning sign worth taking seriously. Second, the bystander effect is real and deadly. Research consistently shows that the more witnesses there are to wrongdoing, the less likely any single person is to intervene. Knowing this about ourselves is the first step to overcoming it. Third, trust must be earned and monitored. We extend trust to the people in our social circles, often without scrutiny. Sam's case is a brutal reminder that the people closest to us can, in the worst circumstances, pose the greatest danger. What's one takeaway from Sam's case that you're going to carry with you? I really do read the comments. Tell me yours. Outro: Sam Nordquist was 24 years old. He deserved safety. He deserved the chance to live a full life. And what was done to him was a profound and unforgivable violation of his humanity. On Dark Files, we don't look away from cases like this because the moment we stop looking is the moment these victims are forgotten. And they deserve to be remembered. If this video moved you, if this story matters to you, please subscribe to Dark Files. Hit the like button so this story reaches more people. Share it with someone. Some story deserves to be heard. And before you go, leave me a comment. Which part of this case disturbed you the most? What question are you still sitting with right now? I want to hear from you. I will be back next week with another case that will stay with you long after you close this tab. Until then, stay curious, stay aware, and remember, the truth, no matter how dark, always deserves to be told.